Hello everyone, welcome to IELTS Speed Up course offered by Thompson School. Today's lesson will be dedicated to comparative reports in IELTS Writing Task 1. Okay, the first question that appears among students is that how to differentiate graphs with a trend and comparative graphs. So usually static graphs are comparatives. Okay, so what is static and dynamic graph? Dynamic graph means all the data, all the numbers are changing throughout the period. It was collected throughout the period. Let's say you will be given timeline and you will be given starting and ending points, so between 1995 and 2010. But static means all the data was collected once at a certain time in the past. Okay, I hope this was clear to you, and you should understand that usually we write comparative reports on bar graphs, pie charts, tables, and of course graphs with a trend, most of the time line graphs, or it can also be a bar graph with pie chart or table. Okay guys, and we are going to start from the first component of your report, which is an introduction. And here we have 10-step IELTS Task 1 Introduction and Writing Technique. Let's consider the following question here. The chart shows information about the average Saturday sales of 2 bakeries in London in 2010, and your task is summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, if you remember, I told you before that writing an introduction is all about paraphrasing the title of the graph. So you should rewrite this title in your own words. So instead of the chart, you can say the bar graph, the graph, and instead of shows, you can write compares, illustrates, highlights, presents, and the word information can be paraphrased as data or statistics. And of course, instead of about, you can use regarding, concerning, or simply on. Now, next step is identifying what is the topic about, And the main logic behind it is identifying whether noun is countable or uncountable. Then you should change parts of speech. So you say the most popular items sold, the sales of the most popular items. And if your noun is countable, you can change the part of the speech in two different ways, by using how many or the number of which or who. Let's say the chart illustrates data regarding how many people visited Australia, or the number of visitors who visited Australia, or the number of people who visited Australia. Or if your noun is uncountable, you can use how much or the amount of. And of course, you should decide whether to use passive or active voice. So, of course, choosing appropriate tense is also important. You will have to look at starting and ending points, And here you have comparative graph, which means you will be given 1 year only, and here in 2010, you will use past simple, the most popular items sold. You might be given prediction as well. You will have to use future simple or present simple if the graph is given in a current time. Then you will use including or namely, and you will have to name some of the items here, including cakes, rolls, salads, and sandwiches. and then location and time, in London in 2010. Okay, let's look at these reworded introductions here. Okay, the bar graph compares data on the average sales of 8 items, including cakes, rolls, and toasted sandwiches by 2 bakeries in London on a typical Saturday in 2010. Or second version here, the bar graph provides data on the most popular items sold by 2 bakeries in London on a typical Saturday in 2010. As you can see, this is very simple and easy, and of course you already have some experience writing an introduction for IELTS Writing Task 1 reports. And now we have an exercise. You should complete these 2 rewrites of the topic. Okay, the first one, the average sales of 7 different car sales. Okay, Malibu, Cherry, Nexia, Captiva, Orlando, Damas, and Tracker in the Uzbekistan in 2018. Okay, do not forget about timing yourself. Let's write first version. The graph compares information about the most, okay, the most popular car models sold in Uzbekistan in 2018. This is our first version. Okay, the second one, the graph highlights statistics on the average sales of 7 different car models. Now I'll have to name some of them, including, let's say, Malibu, Captiva, and Tracker in Uzbekistan in 2018. Okay, let me check them. The graph compares information about the most popular car models sold in Uzbekistan in 2018. The graph highlights statistics on the average sales of 7 different car models, including Malibu, Captiva, and Tracker in Uzbekistan in 2018. So when you're naming some of the items, keep in mind that you don't have to name all of them, some of them, let's say 2 or 3. And here we have another exercise. You should write 2 introductions for each of these topics, and of course you should time yourself. Here we have, okay, favorite film genre, men in the UK in 2018. Okay, we have 5 different genres here. Let's say the graph compares data on the most popular film genres among men in the UK in 2018. The graph compares data on the most popular film genres among men in the UK in 2018. This is the first version, okay? And the second version, just 1 second, okay? The graph, okay, illustrates statistics on the film genres favored by men on the, let's say, on 5 different film genres favored by men including comedies, horror, and action in the UK in 2018. The graph illustrates statistics on 5 different film genres favored by men, including comedies, horror, let's say comedy here, comedy, horror, and action in the UK in 2018. Okay, here you will have to write introduction on your own. You should pause the video and try it yourself first. Okay, here you can see ready introductions, guys. The graph compares data on the most popular honeymoon destinations in 2018. And the second version is the graph illustrates data about 6 different honeymoon destinations, including Spain, France, and Italy, visited by couples in 2018. And here we have children's favorite chocolate in Uzbekistan in 2019. So 5 different types. So first, let's name them. We have Snickers, Bounty, Twix, Mars, and maybe Kit Kat. Okay. Oh. The graph compares data on the most popular chocolate types, or let's say brands, among children in 2019. And the second version, the graph depicts statistics on the most popular chocolate brands, including some of them: Snickers, Bounty, and Twix, eaten by children in Uzbekistan in 2019. The graph depicts statistics on the most popular chocolate brands, including Snickers, Bounty, and Twix, eaten by children in Uzbekistan. Okay. Sorry, here we didn't include the location in Uzbekistan in 2019. So here, as you can see, this is not that difficult. I do recommend you to practice more. Okay, guys. I hope you got the point on how to write good introduction, and now we'll move to the next paragraph, that is overview. And here you can see 6 steps that you should follow to write good overview. And let's consider following example here. The graph shows data about the average Saturday sales of 2 bakeries in London in 2010, and you're given by chart. So as you can see, we have Lovely Loaves and Bernie's Buns. So the red bar stands for Lovely Loaves, and this blue shaded one is for Bernie's Buns. And of course, we overall have 8 items: cakes, cookies, rolls, fresh loaves, toasted sandwiches, salads, crisps, and donuts. So how do we start? First, As usual, we start from the words overall or in general, and you should remember these words always followed by comma. So overall, comma, or in general, then comma. And then we can say what stands out from the graph is that, or it can be seen that, it's clear from the graph that. Then what we do. Here we have two bakeries, and first we should show which bakery is dominating. So you choose one of the items, then you use to be and superlative adjective and topic word. So to get the point, let's consider this example. Bernie's bun, so this is one of the items, is, so to be, generally the busiest bakery. So the busiest is our superlative adjective and topic word is bakery. So then, to show how it is the busiest bakery, we use the verb with out, like outsell, outweigh, outscore, outrun, and then the other item. So outselling lovely loaves in 6 out of 8 items. So you can say when it comes to cakes, cookies, rolls, even toasted sandwiches. Okay, here we have slight difference, but still, and crisps and donuts, lovely loaves is dominating. So we are saying outselling lovely loaves in 6 out of 8 items. So this is our first sentence. We want to show that one of the items is dominating, and then next sentence starts from on the whole or generally. Then again, these words are followed by comma, and then you can group the information, and of course this one can be quite challenging task. You may not know one common word for the group, but still you can try to do something. I will show you an example later. So group the given information separately, plus not as, then adjective, not as popular, not as commonly chosen as. So you're comparing them. So you can say savory foods for toasted sandwiches, salads, and rolls, and sweet items for cakes and cookies. And again, you may not always know words that group them, okay? And savory foods such as toasted sandwiches, salads, and rolls are not as popular as sweet items like cakes and cookies. So let's consider this overview. Overall, it can be seen that Bernie's Buns is generally the busiest bakery, outselling lovely loaves in 6 out of 8 items. On the whole, savory foods such as toasted sandwiches, salads, and rolls are not as popular as sweet items like cakes and cookies. So these are simple 6 steps that you should follow, guys, and now we'll consider example. Okay guys, let's consider following example here. So we have a table here, and this table below shows the results of an online survey of 1,000 people about their first choice holiday accommodation. You should summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. But we'll have to write an overview for this graph here, for this table. So holiday accommodation, hotel, with friends, campsite, hostel, bed and breakfast, motorhome or caravan, cottage, rented apartment, and others. So total number of people voted. So hotel 340 votes. So this is the highest number of votes here. Then we have bed and breakfast, motorhome, then with friends. So if you remember, we should talk about, let's say, the highest number of votes here. Okay, overall, what stands out from the table is that hotel is the most commonly chosen holiday accommodation with the highest number of votes compared to other. So how many options we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 compared to other 8 options. Okay, on the whole, now we should try to group the items here, but as I told you before, this is not always possible. Okay, either you cannot group items or you don't know exact word to group items. So let's do something a little bit different here. On the whole, okay, as you can see, we have rented apartment, cottage, so this is the least popular holiday accommodation. Okay, on the whole, renting a place is not as popular as staying at hotel or friend's house. Okay, sorry. Okay, on the whole, renting a place is not as popular as staying at hotel or friend's house. So compare it to hotels and friend's house or staying with friends, as you can see here. Okay, renting an apartment or cottage is less popular. So this is what I did here. So you don't have to try to name this group, but you can name some of the items. So you can name an item itself. So I hope this was clear. And here you have another example. This chart shows the top 8 honeymoon destinations for newlywed British couples in 2010. The results come from a survey of 5,000 couples. So we have a chart here, so Spain, France, Thailand, UK, the Maldives, Greece, Indonesia, Costa Rica. So I hope you will pause the video here and try to write an overview on your own first. Okay guys, again, you can read this overview here and compare it. Now we'll write an overview for this graph here. Okay, so let's first analyze the graph. Okay, Spain, France, Thailand, and as you can see, so among 5,000 people, 1,410 people voted for Thailand, and then we have Indonesia here. So these are, let's say, top places to visit, okay, for newlywed British couples. Now, overall, what stands out from the graph is that Thailand and Indonesia are the most commonly chosen. So I'm trying to use similar language so you can use these words, these structures. Okay, most commonly chosen. Okay, honeymoon destinations. Okay, for British couples with the highest number of votes compared to others. So how many options we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 compared to other 6 options. Okay, on the whole, Now we should try to group them, and again it might be impossible, but here we can come up with something to group these options here. Look, Thailand and Indonesia are the countries with very good nature and of course beaches. So compared to Spain, France, so these are the developed countries on the whole. Let's say visiting developed, okay, let's say visiting European developed, okay, European countries with better touristic opportunities is not as popular as visiting countries with great nature and beaches. So, okay, on the whole, visiting developed European countries with better touristic opportunities is not as popular as visiting countries with great nature and beaches. So, this is how I decided to group these countries. Okay, I hope this was clear, and again, guys, you should practice more often to excel at writing. I hope writing an introduction and an overview was clear to you guys, and now we will talk about key language for making comparisons. And now we have 17 types of sentences, and okay, the first one is of course adjectives in their comparative and superlative forms. You should remember that adjectives are widely used in comparative reports. Okay, now you should understand that comparative form of an adjective can be actually formed by using er or more or less. So you can say busier, cheaper, faster, better, healthier, higher, or you can say more comfortable, more common, less crowded. And of course, for superlative form, you can use the adjective and add east or east, the busiest, the cheapest. Or you can use the most, the least, the most comfortable, or let's say the least expensive. So here you can see how these adjectives in their comparative and superlative form are used. Learning grammar is more difficult than learning vocabulary. New York is busier than Tashkent. So as you can see, these adjectives are used in the simplest sentence form, and of course we will talk about more complex sentence structures here. And of course, before comparatives, you can use words to indicate if the difference is large or small to show the degree of this difference. Okay, for large differences, you can use much, a lot, considerably, or far, and for small differences, you can use slightly, a bit, or a little. And of course, here you can say Rolls-Royce is much more expensive than a Ford. So, okay, traveling by train is slightly more expensive than driving. So here you can see the comparison between trains and driving a car. If you are going to travel, then train is going to be slightly more expensive. So let's say 100,000 sums if you travel by train, and around 80,000 sums if you travel by your private car. And now, superlatives are also used to rank and show the order of the information you find in the graph. So let's see here. Okay, we have coffee price in 5 different countries: Latvia, Portugal, Spain, France, and of course United Kingdom. And as you can see, the most expensive coffee is in United Kingdom. Okay, it's around £3. Okay, it's around $3. And next France, then Spain, then Portugal, and then Latvia. So in order to show the order, you can say the most expensive coffee is in the UK at $2.9. The second most expensive coffee is in France, where it costs $2. Coffee in Spain is the third most expensive at $1.9. The next most expensive coffee is in Portugal at $1, and the least expensive one is in Latvia at $0.35. I hope this is clear, guys. And now let's talk about comparative structures. Let's continue talking about them. And of course, very good way to write about comparatives is to use the structure where X is not as an adjective as Y. So let's say coffee in France is not as expensive as in the United Kingdom. Okay, I think this is very nice structure, and of course try to use variety of structures in your report. So try to go through each sentence type and analyze it. Okay, now phrases to describe big and small differences. For big differences, we can use similar formula, but of course you can use nowhere near as or not nearly. Okay, let's say the name Peter was nowhere near as popular as Harry. So what is the idea of this sentence? What is the meaning? So Harry, the name Harry, is a lot more popular compared to the name Peter here. Okay, X was or is, of course, depending on the tense you are using in your report. You can use past version or let's say present, not nearly as expensive as Y. Let's say Matisse is not nearly as expensive as Tracker. Okay? Small differences. When we refer to small differences, you can use not quite as, almost as. So let's say the temperature in Tashkent was not quite as high as in Bukhara. So the idea of this sentence is that the temperature in Bukhara is slightly, let's say, higher compared to the temperature in Tashkent. Okay? X was or is almost as expensive as Y. So let's say jewelry I bought for my wife was almost as expensive as mobile phone. Let's say we are talking about quite expensive phone here. And now we will talk about advanced comparatives and linking devices. So of course, you can use not, verbs, then as, the noun phrase as structure to describe comparatives, and of course, this is, let's say, higher level language and structure. So again, formula can be terrifying or you may find it difficult, but as long as you start using it, it will become a lot more easier. Okay, Crooners PLC didn't sell as many CDs as Monster Hits records in 1990. Okay, coffee in France doesn't cost as much as in the UK. So as you can see here, okay, doesn't cost as much as in the UK. So make sure that you are going to come up with sentences for each noun phrase you know, and of course it will help you a lot to improve your language. So, linking devices. You can use while and whereas just to connect, let's say, two simple sentences, and of course by using these linking devices you will make sure that your sentences are more complex. And keep in mind, if you use linking devices professionally, you will definitely get higher score in IELTS. So just 10% of first-time buyers said they needed a garage, whereas 30% said a large kitchen was necessary. So instead of, let's say, delivering the information in two separate simple sentences, okay, you can use these linking devices and construct one complex sentence here. And of course you should remember that when you're using while or whereas in your sentence, you should put comma before these words, so you can say it here. And of course you can use compared to or as opposed to. Okay, just 10% of first time buyers said they needed a garage, as opposed to 30% who said a large kitchen was necessary. And of course, when you're using compared to or as opposed to, you should remember that these actually linking devices are used with relative clause. So you can see it here. Okay, now we'll talk about describing numbers and percentages. Okay, of course there are different ways of describing numbers. For example, you can say approximately 135, about 40, between 20 and 30, just over 120, just under 120. So when we use these words, when you have a graph and you're not sure that this number is exact number here, okay, approximately 135 means something around 135. In fact, it can be 132, 133. The same thing is with about. So about 40, it can be 38, it can be 42. And of course, when you're using approximately 135 in your sentence, you can refer to numbers slightly less than this, as well as higher numbers, 136, 37. And of course here between 20 and 30 means it can be any number between 20 and 30, 22, 29, 27. Just over, so something around 122, 23, so more than 120, but the difference is not big. Just under 120, so it can be 118, 117 in fact. Now, let's talk about different ways to describe percentages. Of course, if you have basic knowledge of mathematics, you will not have any difficulties as long as you understand the logic here. So 66.6%, like you can refer to this percentage as 2/3. So if you have something like 65, you can say approximately 2/3. Okay, 50%, half, 25%, a quarter or 1/4, 40, 2/5. So these are the fractions. In fact, 3/4, 75%, a third, 1/3, 33.3%, a tenth, 1/10. Okay, I think this was clear, guys. And now, okay, so when you're again talking about numbers, you should sometimes approximate them. And of course, percentages as well here, and just over 3/4, this is something around 76%. Nearly a third of girls said 31. It can be something 34 or 35 as well. Just under a quarter of people asked said, okay, 24, 23%. Around a third, almost half, approximately 2/3. So, okay, let's consider this example here. Just under a third of all smokers said they smoked fewer than 20 cigarettes a day. Okay, so just under a third means approximately 32-33% of all smokers said they smoked fewer than 20 cigarettes, so less than 20 cigarettes a day. And now here we have 4 different ways for writing about key or exact percentage. So when you have 10, 20, 25, 50%, so instead of saying simply 10%, you can say a tenth of, 1 in 10, 1 out of 10, 1 out of every 10. So each different way here refers to 10%. Okay, instead of 20%, you can say a fifth of, 1 in 5, 1 out of 5, 1 out of every 5. Okay, 25 here, a quarter of, 1 in 4, 1 out of 4, 1 out of every 4. So instead of 50, you can say a half of, 1 in 2, 1 out of 2, 1 out of every 2. Let's say 50% of women use the same perfume, but okay, you can say 1 out of every 2 women uses the perfume, let's say Chanel. So I'm not good at this, but still, so I hope you got the point here. 1 out of every 10 IELTS students took a mock IELTS exam on a typical Sunday at Thompson School in February. So 1 out of every 10 means 10% of IELTS students, okay, took a mock IELTS exam on a typical Sunday at Thompson School in February. Now, let's talk about words respectively, okay, and in turn. Okay, so these words are very, let's say, useful for placing data. So let's consider this example. Okay, cookies and cakes are the next best sellers, with around 115 and 100 of these snacks sold respectively. So, okay, what does this mean? So here we have cookies. Let me change the color here. Cookies, and of course we have number here. Okay, if you use one of these words like respectively or in turn, it means first number actually belongs, or let's say describes the first item here. So cookies 115, so cakes, okay, let me change the color here. We have cakes. So this number represents cookies and 100 represents cakes. So cookie sales 115, cake sales 100. Now let's talk about numerical comparatives. Of course, you can use this formula here, to be plus twice or 3 times only half as, then adjective as, and then continue your sentence. Let's consider these examples here. Action movies are twice as popular as comedies for men. So you see action movies, so 40, and we have comedies, so 20. If you compare, so action movies are twice as popular as comedies. So let's talk about thrillers and romantic comedies. So thrillers between 10 and 20, let's say approximately 15, and romantic comedies, so approximately 5. Thrillers are 3 times as popular as romantic comedies. Or science fiction films and westerns are only half as popular as comedies. So 20, and here we have 10. Okay, 10. Okay, I hope you got the point here. And now, next formula. The number or amount of, let's say, then you use noun, one of the category, then to be, twice or 3 times, only half then, and then you can use the number or amount of, and then another category. So the number of elementary students, so this is one category, is 3 times higher than the number of students in the beginners classes at 90 and 30 respectively. So again, if you remember, respectively means that 90 here is actually number of elementary students, 30 number of beginner students. Okay, now let's talk about ranking information. So you can use these words in ranking and ordering information. In first, second, last place, is or was, of course depending on the tense you are using in your report, top, bottom of the list, was or is, the number one activity is or was. Okay, something was ranked second with, first, last on the list, headed the list, the most, second most, next most, the least popular is or was, so next time, this was followed by. Okay, you can use these words and phrases to rank and order information. Let's consider this example here. Thailand was the number one destination with 1,410 couples choosing this, just ahead of Bali, which was chosen by 1,335 couples. So as you can see, we are ordering information here. So Thailand was the number one and Bali was the number two. Or Bali was the second on the list with 1,335 couples spending their honeymoon there, making it almost twice as popular as Costa Rica. So again, you should practice and try to make up some sentences with these phrases and words. Remember, you reach proficiency with practice only. Now, dealing with surveys and questionnaires. So 45 people said they prefer, just 10% of the people who were asked said, okay, more than 30% of the people who completed the survey said. So you can use these phrases, said they prefer, who were asked said, who completed the survey said, or simply said, and again around a third of the participants in the questionnaire said. So this is always nice if you learn how to use different structures in one sentence. As you can see, we are representing numbers as fractions around a third, so it means approximately 33.3% of participants in the questionnaire said. So this is very nice language to use when you're actually writing a report, okay, on number of surveys and questionnaires or information that was collected on surveys and questionnaires. Okay, let's consider this example here. Over half said they either ate or checked their mobile phone or tablet while they were watching TV, while perhaps unsurprisingly, only a few teenagers said they read, did exercise, or listened to music while watching TV. Okay? 8% talked to their families, and another 8% said they often did homework and watched TV at the same time. So, most of the time, they do the same, okay, as you do, guys. It's not clear from the pie chart if they did more than one additional activity at once. So I hope this was clear. And now, a good way to increase your level further when writing task 1 answer is to list or rank and compare in the same sentence. Remember, if you use complex structures in your report, you will definitely get higher score. So let's consider these examples here. Playing a team sport was next on the list at 54%, making it slightly more popular than listening to music at 53%. So as you can see, we are actually ordering the information and also comparing at the same time. Team sports were the second most popular activity at 54%, just ahead of listening to music at 53%. Shopping came next at 10%, although this was much less popular than socializing at 20%. Socializing was next at 20%, which was twice as popular as shopping with 10%. So interesting. Socializing is more popular than shopping, but probably among men. 54% of people said they played a team sport in December, slightly more than the number who listened to music, with 53%. Okay? Second on the list were at 54%, while listening to music was slightly less popular at 53%. Okay, guys, these are the structures, and again, you should go through these structures, practice, analyze them, and of course, make up as many sentences as possible. Okay, guys, here we have example model answer, and this is the title of this chart here. The graph shows data about the average Saturday sales of two bakeries in London in 2010, and you're given a bar chart, and we have two bakeries, Lovely Loaves, Bernie's Buns, and okay, this is our introduction. This bar chart compares the most popular items sold by two bakeries in London on a typical Saturday in 2010. You probably remember step-by-step introduction writing technique, so we are simply using synonyms here. So instead of shows, we are using compares, and you probably remember changing parts of the sentence. The most popular items sold by two bakeries in London, so location, time, and then the graph shows average sales of 8 items, including cakes, rolls, and toasted sandwiches in Bernie's Buns and Lovely Loaves. So the second sentence actually contains more information about items, so number of items, and we are naming some of them: cakes, rolls, and toasted sandwiches. If you remember, I told you you don't have to name every single item, just some of them, like 3, 4, and then names of these bakeries: Bernie's Buns and Lovely Loaves. Now, an overview. Overall, it can be seen that Lovely Loaves is generally the busiest bakery, outselling Bernie's Buns in 6 out of 8 items. So if you look at the bar chart here, you see that, okay, Lovely Loaves sold more items compared to Bernie's Buns. So cakes, cookies, rolls, so in 6 out of 8 items. On the whole, savory foods such as toasted, okay, sorry, we have a typo here, okay, toasted sandwiches, salads, and rolls are not as popular as sweet items like cakes and cookies. So this is the grouping here, guys. And now, detailed paragraphs. In terms of sales at Bernie's Buns, donuts come top of the list with an average, okay, donuts came on top of the list with an average of around 135 sold on a Saturday. So, okay, again, this language is actually used to show that donuts are on the top of the list. Okay, cookies and cakes are the next best sellers. So as you can see, we are actually ordering items, okay, with around 115 and 100 of these snacks sold respectively. Okay, we are talking about two different items, and here we have two different numbers, and okay, cookies 115, cakes 100. Savory foods are less popular. Bernie's Buns sells slightly more rolls than crisps, with roughly 75 of each leaving the shelves. So we are trying to compare and of course inform the number of items sold at the same time. Very nice language. Toasted sandwiches and salads are not nearly as popular, with just 25 and 18 sold in turn. So respectively in turn, okay? Now, second paragraph of our body. Donuts are also the number one purchase in Lovely Loaves, with just over 120 sold on a Saturday. Cookies are served at around 65 sales. Salads come next with just over 60, 3 times as many as are sold in Bernie's Buns. So you see comparisons 3 times, like twice. Rolls and fresh loaves are joint fifths with 50 sales apiece, followed by crisps at approximately 45. So approximation here, the least popular item in Lovely Loaves is toasted sandwiches with around 25 sales. So again, ranking, ordering the information here. And of course, I hope you already got the point how these paragraphs have been divided. So first paragraph is all about Bernie's Buns, and the second one is about Lovely Loaves. This is the logical division of these paragraphs. So I hope you will analyze this essay carefully, and this is very nice essay. And now guys, this is going to be your home assignment. You should write an answer for this task 1 question. The charts below show the most popular films by genre for men and women and general ticket sales for different types of film in the USA in 2010. So bar chart here, men and women, and here you have a pie chart. So I do recommend you to logically divide your details into paragraphs, and of course you must submit your homework. I hope the lesson was clear, guys, and you understood most of the techniques and structures. Thank you guys for your attention. This is the end of our lesson. See you next time.